What is up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel, and I'm so excited for this to be the first video of my Pride series. Happy Pride Month. And yeah, like this look, what I started out doing is not how it ended. You'll see, like, I'll use a white like cream to like basically like clean up underneath my brows. I plan on doing like a whole like face paint, like a rainbow like face paint clown, but after I did the eyeshadow, I was like, you know what, I just wanted to switch the vibe up a little bit. But I'm basically priming my face. I use that Scandinavia makeup like primer sprays oil control, and then I use the pore clips primer from Milk, and then the hydro grip from Milk. And I'm taking one of my Spectra Lash from Glisten Cosmetics. It's royal blue, and I'm trying to basically like brush it through my brows to create a brownish, not brownish, a bluish like color. And I ended up throwing it away after this because I mean I've had it for a little second and I feel like there's like no product in there. Like I had to like go over this so much and there was like barely anything in there, but you know, it got the job done for this look. And then I'm taking this Ben Nye Clown of White. It's a cream, and I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to me cleaning up my brows, I prefer to use liquid products like liquid concealers or like the liquid color fix and stuff, just because it gives you a little bit more flexibility. Because if you saw me like carving out, I had to move in like very like slow motions and do it like short, because like there's just not that much like fluidity with the products, which I just like more like fluid products that like don't take me having to like be so careful and like move in like centimeters, if that makes sense. But I just took that same product and I like basically covered my entire eye area, and I feel like this also really helped with just the pigmentation, because the white eyeshadow base makes the colors pop a little bit more, especially because if I usually do my like regular like eyeshadow base routine, I would use concealer and then possibly an eyeshadow base that's like close in color to the concealer I used. But this just gives like a blank canvas in my opinion. And I'm using the Beauty Bay Bright Matte palette. At first I was going to go in with the graffiti like eyeshadow palette from Made by Mitchell, and I tried it, but like I don't know, the pigmentation in those aren't the best. And it's crazy because I have one of his eye clouds and I feel like that one has more pigment than the actual eyeshadow palette. So I don't know, I feel like the formula was just weird, and I didn't want to like have to sit there and like struggle when it came to like using like the colors and stuff. And plus this one has a lot more like different shades and stuff, which is beneficial, so I have more like choice. But yeah, I love the Beauty Bay palettes. They're not that expensive, but like, you know, because of all the stupid ass tariffs and shit, you know, it might be a little bit more expensive than it normally is, but these are really worth your money, especially if you like to do different makeup looks, because I have about, I think 5 or 6 different palettes, and I got them in like sets and stuff, which makes it a lot cheaper. And I don't know, they're pretty affordable. Whenever I want to like upgrade my kit, I will probably be getting some eyeshadow palettes from Beauty Bay, just because they're so versatile, doesn't take too much elbow grease to like make everything look pigmented, and it's an affordable price, honestly. But yeah, I'm just going in. I just decided to start with the red and the purple. I had no clear view or like clear idea in mind. I was really just trying shit, and because I had some of that cream left over on like the hand palette on my hand, I decided to just use that. Also, side note, sorry if you hear clicking and clacking, that's my baby walking back and forth, so you know, please just ignore that. And just like how I had to clean up my brows, I'm having to move in like shorter motions and stuff, that way like things look a little bit like crispier, and I'm not gonna like mess up, because like, you know, it kind of got stuck, if that makes sense. And I'm just setting it with basically taking the eyeshadow I want to use and just like layering it on top. And I'm using a yellow, and I'm using a flat like curved brush, because I feel like this was just easier for me to add the pigment and like make it feel like it kind of is more opaque, and like it doesn't take me like 10 years to do it. But I decided to do the yellow and the green on there just because I already used all the other colors, so I was like, let me just put that on there. And then I'm lining my eyes with a black liquid liner from Made by Mitchell. This is the Graph Ink in Black Milk. So the reason why I like to line my top lash line is just to help my lashes like blend in better with my actual natural lashes. And I decided, since I was going to do a foundation base instead of like a colorful base, I decided to just add that pink in my eyebrow slit, just, you know, for a little pop of color. And I'm using like this glitter liner from Half Beauty. I think this is like called Pretty Puddle, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm just going on top with like this silver like prismatic pigment. I forgot which one it is, but it's from Glisten Cosmetics. If you want to see the details, I put all the details in my Instagram pictures, so definitely check those out. And then check out my TikToks if you want to just see videos and like kind of like small moments of my makeup, especially up close versus like how you see it on here. And I'm going ahead and I'm taking some mascara. This is the full sleeve mascara from KVD Beauty. When it comes to mascara on my top lashes, I like to usually just use like the bigger wands that like, create more of a volumizing effect than like a lengthening effect. And I'll use like a lengthening mascara on my bottom lashes. And I usually do that like towards like the end of my makeup, like, routine, just because, I don't know. I just feel like I don't like having to put it on and then it messing up and stuff, especially because I have to do like a bunch of different layers after I even do my eyes, because that's like basically the beginning of my routine. And I'm using this foundation from One Size, one of my favorite foundations. I'm not gonna lie to you, like I use this all the time, but I try to like switch it up with other foundations, that way I get other products a little chance. You also saw me use a concealer that is kind of close to like my foundation shade, just to clean above my brows. That's what I usually do. It's either like almost my actual like foundation shade, or it's going to be like slightly lighter but darker than like the concealer I use to like highlight my face. And I'm just trying to cover up some of the areas where that white cream was, that way it doesn't show up and like mess up my foundation when I'm already like, finishing my face routine. And then I'm just taking that same concealer, or actually I did use concealer, I forgot, but I'm using the Milani concealer. I need to get another one of these because this is basically empty. And it's so crazy because like I realized like what concealers I love to use the most when I'm like, hold up now, like this don't look like you got any product up in here. And this was actually a good concealer. I just like randomly bought it when I went to Walgreens one day. I feel like it does a pretty good job. I probably, if I wanted it to be a brighter like effect with like the highlighting, I probably should go like at least a shade under, but I feel like this is not that bad, because there are days when like I don't want an intense highlight, and I feel like this is a day that I could like use a concealer like this. And I do the same routine, like I do underneath my eyes, I do my nose, my forehead, my chin, and I do underneath my cheekbones, just to make like that contour pop when I put the bronzer on later on. And because I saw like something in my eyebrows, like let me go back over it with this blue, even though them hoes was stiff as fuck. Not gonna lie to you, at this point they were so freaking hard to like blend through, but I made it work. And then I'm going in with this curve case from Made by Mitchell. I love Made by Mitchell's products. They're really pigmented, and I feel like he creates some really like high quality stuff. I feel like when it comes to other makeup brands, like sometimes people just be making stuff just to make stuff because they see other companies or brands doing it, but he actually like sits there, and I feel like he's in the lab like coming up with innovative shit that can help the beauty community. And I feel like this is one of the products that has been released in the last couple of years that really has changed the beauty world. And even just because of the shade range, like he had a pretty good shade range when he first dropped them, but then he dropped a lighter one and a deeper one. And I just like, I have to give a round of applause for that, because a lot of brands, like I hate it because like whenever I'm looking for makeup, it's like the darker shade is something like I can barely use, and it's like I am not like someone with the deepest skin tone, and that's what just blows my mind. So I don't know if y'all would be interested in a video like this, but I have been thinking about doing like a makeup like series and talking about different products and stuff, because I feel like there's so many different products on the market, and a lot of brands like they come up with like new things. Like there's some brands who I know drop stuff like every month, like at least 1 to 2 new products every month, which is a lot. And sometimes I just feel like people don't necessarily know what to use and what certain products are, and like what situations you would like probably like use them in, if that makes sense. So if y'all are interested in like a about series, talking about different makeup products, because I could talk about foundation and like the difference between like a foundation, a skin tint, like a cream, the powder product, like how those will like literally affect your makeup, and when you should probably use them, or like when you probably should stay away from them. I could do concealers, like even like the different like finishes, like liquid concealer versus cream concealer. Those can give 2 different effects, and like you have to treat them differently when you blend them out and like actually use them. And then like powders, like because I know I like to use a lot of like loose powders versus like the pressed ones. And I feel like the loose ones is kind of because I get to kind of like actually consider or like be in control of how much product I have, because I like to like pour the powders in like the top of the container or on something if I have something that I can use, and then like I will dip the brush in there, tap off the excess, and then I'll like go in layer by layer and like do it that way. That way I know that like the powder I'm using is even throughout, and I don't have like areas where there's like way too much powder, because then that can kind of affect how it looks like when you're done with your makeup and like how it blends too. But yeah, if you're interested in that, please let me know. And another side note, whenever I do like different phases of my face, Like when I do like the cream or liquid products, like I like to go in after I do my concealer, I like to go in with my foundation brush to blend the edges, and same thing when I do bronzer or contour. And then you just saw me use my powder blush that my powder brush that was all over my face. You saw me use that to kind of tone down the blush, because I love a good blush moment. I love dramatic blush, but sometimes I just need to tone it down like just a slight bit. And I feel like some people don't realize that if you go in with like other brushes on top, like you could dim it down. Like you don't want to have to always dim stuff down. Like you want to kind of like create like the vibrancy that you normally want. But sometimes, you know, you don't realize that some of these products are like really pigmented, and that's a big thing when it comes to different companies, because different companies, when they make certain things, like some people go for products that you have to build up, like they're lighter in like, you know, transparency or like being translucent or not, or opaque. And some companies, like they have high pigment to the point where it's like, okay, you start off with a little dot, blend that out, and then like figure out how much you want to add after that. But so now that I'm basically done with my like face, you know, I've done my highlighter, I drew my moles back on and stuff like that, and now I'm ready for my lashes. I make sure I set my face with whatever like longwear or matte setting spray I'm gonna use. And now I'm gonna do my lips, and I love these two liquid lipsticks. These are from REM Beauty. These are probably my most used liquid lipsticks, and I feel like the brown is a pretty good shade. I would love if there's like a slightly darker shade, because I feel like that would give more of a different, like, you know, value like for my face, because like I like the brown, because I usually always use a brown liquid lipstick like, and then put whatever color in the inside. But to make it look like just pop a little bit more, a darker shade I feel like would eat. And yeah, I'm just putting some rhinestones in my brow, because I love putting rhinestones in my eyebrow slit. It's kind of like a trademark at this point. Like it's very much my style. And then I'm putting on my lashes. A tip for putting on lashes, I like to have a mirror underneath my face and like kind of tilt it, and that helps me like see, is my lash like actually sticking like above my lash line, or is it like right there? And you know, that's a little technique, because girl, it takes me forever to put on my lashes sometimes, and I cut out so much footage. And now I want to kind of like mix a lip gloss color, because like I didn't necessarily have the color I wanted to use, so I just used two different liquid lipsticks, or not liquid, anything, lip glosses, and I just mixed them on the back of my hand on that hand palette. And this is the end of this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Check out my Instagram for pictures and stuff, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.